Got it.
Well, greetings wherever you're at, joining us live, catching the replay. Matt here with Jen and Marva in our interconnected art rooms. Tuning in for week 3 of our creative autumn journaling journey. I always enjoy the growing presence and warmth in the field that we create as we hop on these weekly calls. I always sense something so magical that's being nurtured as we show up with good intentions to be courageously authentic to who we are and what we want. I recently heard that if you place 2 heart cells from living people in a petri dish, they'll tune into each other, and in time they will find and maintain a third common beat. What? They'll come into coherence with each other. And so here we are on the leading edge of our Buddha Nature Lab, coming into coherence with each other. I can't wait for science to show us how on the timeline we're also so connected, like when someone is watching this replay, how it actually affects this moment. Okay,
Yeah.
so before we dive into week two reflection, and maybe do a little overview of what we're getting into for week 3, let's just take a few breaths together so that we can come more into coherence with one another. Maybe just checking in with our body, our posture, maybe stacking the bones so our muscles can find that relaxed engagement. Noticing the natural rhythm of the breath. And just accentuating it a little bit. Inviting more of that life force oxygen into the lungs, inspiration, inhalation, and feeling ease with each exhalation, expiration. Feeling so grateful for our respiration, this act of breathing that cleanses our being of our stuck, stagnant energy. Such an accessible way to arrive together in the moment. Such a great way to notice and release the mental chatter and just help us find our alignment with what our deepest intentions are right now. And I'll just be quiet for a little bit so that we can take a few more deep, nourishing breaths in whatever fashion you feel inspired. Mark Nepo is a wonderful poet who was reflecting on this biological fact that 2 cells can find a common beat, and then asked, if 2 cells can find the common pulse between everything, how much more can full hearts feel when all excuses fade away? How much more can full hearts feel when all excuses fall away? It's cellular proof that beneath our resistance, any resistance we might pose, that beyond our attempts that fall short, there is just the very nature of life, of some essential joining force. And that's what I love about these calls. Every time we voice what beats within, we invite some other cell of our hearts to find what lives between us and connects us with our creativity and our conversation and our observations. So thank you, Marva, for creating this journey for us to tune into our hearts with, to express what feeds our soul, and yeah, to celebrate the uniqueness that each of us have to bring. So wonderful. Thank you. How was week 2 for you guys?
Well, I'm just at the very beginning of week 2. I've been playing instead of staying up on my days. But in that play, I've been processing. I think I posted this a couple of times on there in different couple of different articles. But in the play of processing heavy emotion, so you can tell the difference between just an emotion and an emotion that is that kind of takes you over, so that it won't let you ignore it.
Yeah.
And so rather than just keep pushing it to the background, you know, and we've talked about this like a million times, and I don't know why this is so stunningly magical to me right at this moment, but just knowing something intellectually doesn't necessarily bring it into your entire being. And so I know these things on an intellectual level, but what I've been doing is actually expanding the process of processing these emotions by first releasing them to the page. One of the ones that I was working with this week was grief. And it allowed me to sit in the presence of what I was grieving for, and then let it be heard. And then it allowed me to intentionally focus on the gratitude of that, the gift that it had to bring to me. And it's the last part that really was significant in what I was doing, because just the releasing of the original emotion, the grief, the releasing of that onto the page, and then putting the foundation over the top of it, which we've talked about that a lot of times before. That was great for the releasing, but then the refilling of what do you put in there once you've left this hole, there ends up to be a pause there. Like once you've released and you don't have anything more to say about this, then you're your feeling state has been heard, then there's a pause. And so at that pause, you can shift to intention and gratitude. And so the last however long I spent on the pages was with the intention and the gratitude of understanding, compassion, and thankfulness of the emotion actually processing. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it was kind of a magical process, I must say. And let me see if I can find, because they kind of turned out really good. Yeah, hold on. Let's see if I can back myself up here. Maybe. Uh-oh. I'm touching things that are not supposed to be touched. Okay. So that's one of them.
Is that your new granddaughter?
No, this was you remember we
Alicia?
had a car accident last year. So this was just the physical processing of grief, basically. And
Nice.
so that was her page. Pretty good hummingbird.
Gorgeous.
Oh, they keep showing up to me, you know. And then this was another grief processing page here. And it kind of went along, it was right after the fear page, you know, all that messy fear. And then my sister-in-law just passed away like 4 days ago. So that was her page right there.
Love that.
Yeah, and being connected to her while I was doing the you know, just doing the whole actual creative part of this, not the foundation, not the grief part, but staying intentionally focused on her and what she brought to my life while I was doing this, made a huge difference in the processing of the whole experience, which is really cool. So that's what I've been doing.
Beautiful.
Instead of you know, autumn. It all goes hand in hand. Creativity is creativity. So
yeah,
we can doesn't matter which one. Just courageous observation. Jumping in, just jump in.
Yeah. How about you, Jen? You've been jumping into some things this week?
Yeah, well, I just want to reflect on what Marva just shared. You asked, does this make any sense? Or maybe you said, I don't know if this makes any sense. And it hits so deep for me in the work that I do personally and my journey. So I really appreciate you sharing all of that. And I love the interweaving and the parallels of Matthew sharing about the heart, and the hummingbird is a significant symbol in many cultures and specifically the Peruvian culture and shamanism as the heart medicine, and how interesting it is that we're in autumn and it has a lot to do with the breath and the lungs, and the lungs are actually in traditional Chinese medicine the grievance organ. And it's, you know, right here at our heart. So I just think it's so incredible how interwoven it is, that you are right where you need to be in this process of autumn. And thank you for sharing your process of grief. I know that's really challenging. And I love how I wrote down from from your inspiration, gratitude is the lifeboat of grief. So thank
So
you.
Mhm.
So good. Yes, I've been continuing my journey of imperfection. I'll admit I haven't been going through each day, and I would like to do that with more intention. And yet, reflecting back, I'm like, oh, I actually did these things. How cool is that? But my journey has been about just doing it anyway, regardless of making it, you know, a strict container. And I've been doing it, and I've been showing up. Today I'm coming at you live from my art desk. So
Cool.
that feels really good. I've been, you know, like, even if it's just like a quick thing, I'm like getting it on there. And I've been really enjoying writing still. So and not to say still, but I'm a big advocate of morning pages, and just the ability to then just cover it with paint with my new watercolor set has just been so liberating. Yeah, and I've been doing it every day, which has been such a treat. Such a treat. Yeah, and yeah, I feel like a big common word has been compassion, and also like feeling the feels and calling in what I want. Yeah, it's been amazing. It's been really inspiring me to make my own deck. So that feels good. Yeah.
We're deck fans.
Yeah.
Marv
Yeah.
actually created a journey in which we all went and we all created our own deck.
What?
It's in the art room. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, Marva.
Even like
I love
making our
you.
own box for it and the guidebook.
What? I can just sign up for this deck training?
It's
Yes.
in the art room. Yeah.
And it really is. It's so simple. And actually, you're gonna love working. There's so many ways that we can come at ourselves with our imperfections. You know. So here, you know, I find really big canvases kind of intimidating.
Yeah. I got a new canvas right here. Nice little 8x10. 8x10.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. Well, even ones that are a little bit bigger than the normal ones that I use, I kind of seize up. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to cover that with like 18 layers of paint. Wow. That is going to be quite I have this odd conversation with myself about the resistance to this large thing that I'm supposed to do. But the intention deck is so small that it actually becomes almost a challenge to squish yourself down into that tiny little space, you know? Yeah. So all these ways that you can come at yourself with the well, like say putting baby wipes down as a foundation just to see what the paint will do, which let me tell you what it does do. It's very absorbent and it just sucks your paint right in there. So nothing's moving, it's there, you know, but that's another way you can come at yourself, you know? It's like, oh, did I have to make these weird looking flowers perfectly? No, you don't have to do anything.
You don't have to do anything. Yeah.
Right. You do not have to do anything.
Yeah.
And all of this leads us somewhere, you know? So that's really cool. But yeah, the intention deck is so fun. And all you need is the index cards.
Well, I'm in. Thank you for that. I feel like a big part of my week has been I'm allowed.
You
I'm
are.
allowed. I'm allowed, and I'm safe. I'm allowed and I'm safe.
Yes.
to just be and let go.
There's a weird kind of freedom to that. I mean, I would have said, if you would have asked me like 7 years ago, are you normally in a state of freedom? I would have said, yeah, because I'm a freedom fighter and that's what I do. I fight to be free. Yeah, no. That is not true.
No.
My head says, this is the story I'm going to tell you about how I'm a freedom fighter. But my intestinal tract of my heart says, take another look at that. You know, how much compromise do you actually do? Are you authentic while you're being free? You know, free, quote unquote. You know, because you're not actually free if you're compromising to make yourself into something that somebody else wants you to be, or to say yes when you really meant no, I'm going to stay home and work on my art table. You know, and it's not like you get that privilege all the time. You don't always get to say no when you mean no. You know, I mean, sometimes you just, but you do have the opportunity then to shift your perception of what you're about to do and turn it into a act of creativity somehow, some way, you know. So
Yes.
Great fun.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I wrote in watercolors, who am I dedicated to being? And a bunch of other things. Who am I dedicated to being?
Yes.
My higher self. My compassion.
Yeah.
Oh, Marva.
So fun, isn't it?
It's so good.
Oh, so much fun. I tell you.
Well, for me, week 2, kind of on the, well, first of all, Jen, thank you for sharing. I love where all of us are at, it seems like, with being flexy and free in how we create and not necessarily sticking to the script, but just tuning into what makes our soul sing in the moment and allowing ourselves to play in those ways, because we can, and we are so deserving. We are the most deserving.
I wrote that today.
Nice. For me, the kind of the theme for week 2, kind of on the flip side of what you were saying, Marva, where I agree, typically we intellectually understand something, but then to ingrain it into our way of being is a process. There's like certainly an integration that takes place. But for me this week, it was more like, okay, like my instinct, my impulse, and my intuition know something, but like my intellect is trying to figure out how to put it to words so that other people can understand it, and so that I can publicly justify what my soul knows. And that's so frustrating not to be able to speak to that in an intellectual sense sometimes. So like, yeah, that was my theme for this week. So what's great is, even though it's initially frustrating, it is the way I am because it feels good, because I'm like, oh no, this is right. This is what you should be doing. This is what you should be. Yeah. And so trust. Thanks for always reminding me, Jen, to trust, especially in intellectually, when all the pieces aren't connecting. There's just such a sweet surrender and just trusting and continuing to create and play in that space of knowing despite the unknowns. Creating in the unknown. That's so fun.
Yeah,
Mm.
yes, it is.
Yeah, trying to inspired more and more this week to just embrace the unknown, knowing it's always going to be there. It'll never be figured out. We try so hard to figure it out and make sense of all the things, and it just keeps coming, all the unknowns. So yeah, it was fun to just notice that this week and continue to create and play amidst all that. So good. Well, guys, we have such a sweet little intimate chat right now. We could go any which way. I would be happy to run down week 3 of what we have coming up for us in week 3. I know we all might be on different places on the journey. If there's any other inspired direction, happy to go any which way. Is there any, does anyone have any preferences? One of our intentions for week 3?
Oh, I would love to reflect on what you shared.
Oh, please.
Mm. Well, just feeling into this uncertainty, right? Like we're talking about trust, you were talking about trust, and it reminds me a little bit of Katie Byron's work when she says, well, what do you know? Like what's true, I think is really what she says. For listeners, it's really about trauma release work and understanding the story that we have in our bodies and brains, and then actually gaining a higher perspective of what we do know. So anyway, it just reminded me of her saying, I could hear her saying, well, what is true? And I think that can be really helpful when realigning with ourselves. And there is so much uncertainty, but when we can really understand like who we are, and sometimes that's hard because we're evolving. I think that's just why it's so important to meditate and get quiet and have that pregnant pause and listen. And what I'm hearing you say is you do know. And it's like, yeah, it's scary to not know. But what we do know is like, we can put a bunch of colors on a page and it makes me feel good. I know it makes both of you feel good. And just feeling into what we do know. And I think there is so much trust in that uncertainty of allowing ourselves to just create, which has been a huge part of my experience in all of this, in the imperfection of not necessarily following the guidelines, and not necessarily like feeling like I have time, but then it's so important to me in that imperfection to just show up more in every moment, because that's who I'm dedicated to being. That's what I do know is like, I trimmed my hair today and I was like, oh, I have to do this really quick so I can make it to the call. And I was like, oh, no, I'm gonna have fun doing this, just simple little things. Yeah, even like cleaning the bathroom, just like I can do this swiftly and flow, but it can also be really fun. And I think, knowing you, Matt, you do know so much and you bring so much creativity to everything you do. It's like bursting. And I appreciate that inspiration so much because it's certainly palpable. And I freaking love this art room. It is so fun.
Thank you, Jen. That's such a sweet reflection. But in all honesty, I don't know like anything. I don't. And that's what inspired the logo for Intention Inspired, where it's like the Enso with the I am in it. Because that's the only thing that I know is the fact that I am. I am aware. In this moment, I am. That's like the only thing I can be sure that I know. Everything else, I totally just, I think I know this. I think I know that. But yes, within that knowing of our presence, it does inspire that just showing up for whatever it is, throwing the paint, creating the thing, and just being in love with it all. Because we have the choice. I love it.
Always.
Sounds like a good knowing to me.
For sure.
It's funny about knowing, because, and I think we're fairly solid to say that in any given particular moment, there are things that you can know about that moment. You know, you can know that you're safe. You can know that you're on a mission. You can know, you can know what you know in that moment. I think where the challenge comes in is holding on to that knowing as if that were the only truth.
Yes.
And because what I know right now compared to what I thought I knew 10 years ago, that's a different world altogether.
Yeah.
But the amazing thing is that in the process of that evolution, kind of like a soul expansion, and I don't ever picture an ending to it unless I'm
Right.
not here anymore. I'll be in a different location with much more freedom without a physical restraint. But here in this moment on this planet, as long I can say what I know, as long as I don't hold on to it and turn it into a prison.
Nice.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Be able to let it come and go as the knowing.
Yeah.
And expand in its own right.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wow, we're
Yeah.
deep. We are deep.
We are so deep.
Aren't
Something
we?
else is this okay that we're still jamming on this?
Yeah. Jam
Okay.
on.
Something else I've been working on articulating this week is how I know certain things, I feel like, in my belief system, and I'm open to other ideas and beliefs, and yet certain things I'm pretty certain to a certain degree, right? And then beyond that, I definitely don't know. And what I've been playing with in articulating is how, actually it was a conversation with Matt about my higher self and your higher self or someone else's higher self, and how, certain people will have their belief systems, and who am I to then impose my belief system on their higher self, right? Because like what they know and believe they know is what they know, and what I know to a certain degree is what I know, and to then like pretend like I can then say to that person, or even in my energetic field, say, oh, this is the truth, they just don't know any better, seems so egotistical.
So arrogant.
Yeah. And it's like, that's out of alignment with my higher self. I think it really becomes a conversation of acceptance and understanding of who people are, and not to impose my higher self on their higher self, right?
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Because the truth of the matter is that our higher selves are all having tea over here at a table, having brilliant conversations with no ego attached.
Mm-hmm. But some people's higher self might want to be on a roller coaster. Some others might want to be in another dimension, like.
True.
It's still a choice in a way, or maybe you believe it's not a choice, right? And it's like, we're all still, I don't know, it's like we're all like interconnected, and yet individual in our energetic higher self belief system.
Maybe. I don't know. I just always picture our higher selves as just an energy blast.
Me too, but maybe you and I, our higher selves, have tea together, right?
They do. They absolutely do.
Right? But I have a friend who I love dearly, and we have tea together in this form. And yet
Yeah.
he has a different belief system about his higher self. So maybe our higher selves, they're on different dimensions. They're on different planes.
Well, that makes sense because, well, I don't know this for a fact because I don't have memory of where I was before I got here, but everybody's not here in the same evolutionary track. You know what I mean? It's like maybe I've been here a million times.
Yeah.
Maybe this guy over here has only been here 10 times. That doesn't mean anything. That means nothing as far as knowledge or brilliance or light shining. That just means I've been here more often. So I'm a little bit more comfortable about being on the planet. You know, but how does that affect your higher self? Does that add, subtract, you know, or is it all just an energy burst? You know, that is something to contemplate right there. Because, you know, everybody is learning at their own consciousness level. Yeah. Guided, if they can hear it, by their higher self. Right?
Multiverse. I think
Multiverse.
multiverse.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I don't know. That brings in some complication. Brings in some complication when you're trying, when you're hoping you can be understood. You know, because you don't know if you're ever going to be understood. So
Yep.
all it go.
What if it's just okay? What if that's just okay?
Yeah.
Isn't that just loving acceptance and loving awareness?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. 100%.
Oh, but it's so much easier said than done. It's hard to feel understood. It's so hard.
I know. You know, as I write the article and then I erase the article because it doesn't, that's not what I'm trying to say. Then I put it back on there and then I erase it again because that's not how I want it perceived. And then eventually I just surrender to it and just go, here's what it's going to look like. Take it and do with it whatever it is that you need to do. You know, I can't speak in the appropriate terminology here in on the physical plane so that every single other 7.8 billion people have a clear understanding. I can't, it's not possible. So.
And therein lies the uncertainty. How will we ever believe that we really, really know?
Exactly. We know for us. We know for us in this moment. And really, isn't that all there is to it?
Yeah, so then the whole purpose is like, well, let's just have some fun because fun feels so good. I know that. I like having fun. And color is fun.
Oh, so much fun. That was one of the really wonderful things about the processing of the emotions. I think actually I had in some way shut them off. Like I was only going to allow myself to feel halfway into the thing. Mm-hmm. And I did that quite a while ago. And so when I finally was able to let that emotion speak, go ahead and let it have a voice, there was a there was a huge impact, a huge release to that. So that when I was done, it was like, wow, I just lost 7 pounds. I don't know. Maybe grief weighs 7 pounds.
10,000.
Yes, it feels like it at times. You know? But it was just amazing because, you know, I talk about this incessantly. People are annoyed. They wear earplugs. Pretty soon they're like, I don't want to talk about this anymore.
About what exactly?
Creative expansion. You know, I mean, I'm not talking about you guys. You don't have to listen to me all day long, every day. And really, I don't sit around, I don't talk about this to the grocery store clerk unless it seems relevant at the time. But it's amazing how when it finally clicks, it clicks and it's something.
Yeah.
Something. This, you wouldn't believe how fun this baby wipe business is. Whoa, so fun. That
Jen,
is
do you
some of
know-
the story.
Do you know what you're gonna create your deck on?
No, I don't.
What's the pull to create one? Where's that coming from?
Well, I really love writing, and something that I've been enjoying about this journey is like right here. Like this one, just it's like a one-liner. Well, I guess there's a few liners, but my spiritual practice is an art. My art is a spiritual practice. I find that inspiring. So I love, you know, the simplicity in that type of deck where you pull a card and it
Mhm.
would have, you know, just that one line. And then on the other side, maybe there's like a little paragraph explaining that or a small meditation. And so that's really where this is coming from. Like my love is tapped into my expression, you know, things like that. And just like one liners. And then the other side is like a little guide or guidance. And so someone can just like pull that. I see it kind of like laminated, I guess, but that's really just because all my decks are laminated that I use because I like the shuffle.
Yep.
And then in that, I just see a lot of color and flow. I've also have a lot of inspiration to do sort of like spirit animal deck where I'm creating, or I should say spirit guide deck, where I might be creating even like morphing different animals together that really resonate and have resonated with me.
Fun.
Yeah. So yeah, I see paint though, for sure. Paint is involved.
You guys would love this deck. Have you heard of it? Sacred Rebels Oracles.
Yeah, I love Alana Fairchild. She's my favorite.
Oh my God. Like it has the kind of same structure that it will have like a saying,
Yeah.
some gorgeous art piece. But then with this one, you go to the book on it.
Yeah.
But the one with that Abraham Hicks does is exactly like what you're feeling into, with inspiring little mantra on the front with it being expounded on the back. I like that structure. It's
Super
cool.
accessible. The book will come. I would love, since you're sharing, I would love to show you the art that I find most inspiring. Again, Alana Fairchild is her Rumi deck, which you know well, but this artist is named Lazuli. Oh, hey. Named Lazuli. Like, look at this art.
Yeah, her art is
Oh,
incredible.
incredible.
I think it's a guy.
Oh,
lazuli. Like this to me,
Oh, check that out.
it's so inspiring. And there's something about like effortlessness. Aw.
We got the same one.
Cosmic Heart. 8 for infinity. Too good. Yeah, I just thinking about his art, like, I mean, look at that.
It's pretty emotional. Definitely evokes a lot.
I find it to be very passionate. Oh, and this one's a passion for purpose. How about that? So, yeah, very inspiring. Very, very inspiring for me.
Oh, beautiful.
But, and it's like, so I can feel a little piece of resistance coming up. I'm like, oh, but this painting, like, look how many paintings there are, like this deck, and I'm like, oh man, this must take so long, to make one card. So I think maybe like for my first deck, I just frickin' do it.
Yeah, gosh, I would love to do more. Marva had just completed how many, a 50 card deck?
Yep.
And it's gorgeous. It is so beautiful within an intention. And she has like the reverse meaning too, if you pull it upside down. And yeah, we intend to get those printed and broadcasted around the world because they're so amazing. It'd be cool to revisit the intention deck so we can have accountability around wherever we're at with our intention deck. I've got like some unfinished ones.
Yeah.
I'd love to keep creating.
We should actually do that next in the art room, is just revisit the intention deck. Yeah, and before I rewrite winter or doctor it up or make it prettier, I think I would like to finish that, the guidebook to the intention deck, so
Yeah.
that
Where
that
you
could be
at?
a done.
Where are you at with it?
I still got 40 more pages to do. It requires so much sitting with the card itself,
Mm-hmm.
and then picturing that in reverse. So it's a little more, yeah, it's not quite as playful as the actual creating of the deck was. We're back.
Marva, how can you bring more of that into it? How can the gratitude and the inspiration and the versus it being a chore?
Yeah, see, that'll be a whole new world, because before I got to, I think I ended up on the 10th card, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so much work, to try to make myself understood, right side up and upside down. And then, but now with this new, being able to just sit with it, and this new level of consciousness of having worked in the journal, worked through the emotion of it being a chore, now I will be able to address it with more freedom and more, what we were talking about at the beginning, where this is the way I'm going to say it. This will resonate at whatever level it resonates with you, basically. Instead of just worrying over it all as you're writing it, and undoing and redoing, just go with it. Go with it as I know it in this moment.
I pulled a card for you, Marva.
Okay, what?
Okay, so it's The celestial rose of Ma. You see that?
Mhm.
And this, it's kind of long, so I'll just make this, I'll give you the short one, which is a Rumi poem. May I read the Rumi poem?
Yes.
The taste of bitterness becomes sweetness and love. The searching in the dark finds the light of faith revealed in love. Love transforms thistles into jasmine. Love layers heaven and gifts us with wings to soar into its mystery. Love transforms our every thought into a desire of the heart. Oh, love, how divine is your luring. Beauty flows from your unseen face. Your very nature is radiant with joy. You manifest vibrant hues in every flower. Your touch dazzles all creation. Every particle is attracted towards you, longing to unite and dwell in you. He talks about, or she, Alana, then talks about, do you want me to keep going?
Yeah, make it brief because we are past the hour, so we should bring this
Oh.
plane in for a landing here.
Okay,
soon.
cool.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Basically, she talks about the worthiness and how I tear my flesh on its thorn and my blood flows. So yeah, even though it's painful, allow it to flow when coming back into love. I'll stop there.
That's, wow.
You know what? I'll take
Magnificent.
a picture and send it to you.
Okay, cool. That's beautiful.
I love that you pulled that. That seemed pretty relevant.
Yeah, it did to me too. I can resonate with that.
Me too. Yeah.
Matt?
Well, Marva,
I
we
was
are
thinking-
hopping on the trail today. We'll be
Yeah.
gone all me and Jen and housemate Starlight will be back.
You know, I
next
really want to
Sunday,
read more
just
of
in
it.
time for the call.
I
What?
really want to, sorry, my connection's unstable. I want to read more of it to you, so I'll definitely send it to you.
Okay,
Okay, wait, the last line. Yes, those thorns serve essential purpose. For I love the rose, and so I love what is necessary for her to be. So I love the thorns too.
Yeah.
yep. That's the learning. You guys have a really safe journey. Make sure you have enough clothes on, because I don't know what it's doing where you are, but it's down here in the southern part. It's a little nipply
Good to
Oh,
know.
and wet and misty. So,
wow.
yeah. When I woke up this morning, the entire porch, which normally is not covered with liquid, the freezing fog had come. I don't think it was freezing, but it came and made it all the way to the house across the deck. So yeah, it's cold and damp. Anyway, I know you guys have so many adventures. And on that note, let's take a look at how this,
Wow, that came along.
like, background. Yeah. I mean, it just literally, it's so wet. You wouldn't even believe how wet that is. It soaks, just sucks the color right down into the thing. But the
Cool.
colors are kind of cool.
Vibrant.
Like I'm gonna spray this thing with water and let it see what happens.
Fun.
I will never
Hopefully it won't fall apart.
look at baby wipes the same way.
I'm saying, that's what I thought. Normally I just use them to wipe stuff up, but I'm like, that's all I have.
Oh my gosh. Well,
So
thank
there
you
you have
so
it.
much for this incredible hang container today. This was awesome.
I love it. I love our live calls. They are so fun and so inspirational. And I'm
Yeah.
talking to you backwards again. There we go. So you guys have a safe journey. I love you, and I'll see you next week.
Love you so
Woo!
much. We'll send you inspiration from the trail.
Do it. Wave at me. You'll be right across from me.
Yes, we will. All
Yay.
right. Love you, Marva.
Go find a home. Love you. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. You guys are so inspiring.